Global politics today is defined by sharp divides, where energy security, trade disputes, and strategic alliances are reshaping the balance of power. India, one of the fastest-growing major economies, is at the center of this shifting landscape. New Delhi's relationship with Moscow and Washington has once again become a focal point, especially after recent high-level talks in Russia between Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and his Russian counterpart Sergey Lavrov. The discussions underscored India's determination to protect its economic choices while resisting outside pressure. Jaishankar strongly pushed back against accusations that India is overly dependent on Russian oil. Speaking in Moscow, he reminded reporters that several European countries continue to import large volumes of Russian energy, and China remains the single biggest buyer of Russian crude. Yet, he noted, criticism is disproportionately directed at India. According to The Hindu, Jaishankar emphasized that India's purchases are driven by national interest, not politics, and are essential to keep energy affordable for its massive population. The debate around India's oil imports has become more heated following Washington's new trade actions. The Trump administration imposed sweeping tariff hikes on Indian exports, with some duties reportedly as high as 50%. As Reuters reported, U.S. officials argue that India has gained billions in revenue by refining Russian oil and selling petroleum products overseas, estimating the figure at over $16 billion. These claims have fueled tensions at a delicate moment for bilateral ties. Indian officials strongly reject this narrative. They stress that energy decisions are based on affordability, availability, and security of supply. Oil purchases, they argue, are not acts of political defiance, but necessary for economic stability. Jaishankar also pointed out that the U.S. itself has previously encouraged India to diversify its energy sources, which included expanding ties with Russia to reduce dependence on Middle Eastern oil. Available data complicates Washington's case. The U.S. Energy Information Administration shows that India has steadily increased imports of American crude over the past decade, making the United States one of its key suppliers. This demonstrates that India is diversifying, not relying solely on Russia. The Economic Times reported that Russia, meanwhile, is offering discounted oil, flexible rupee-based payment mechanisms, and even defense cooperation aligned with India's Make in India policy. India's dual approach reflects its long-standing strategy of strategic autonomy. Since the Cold War, New Delhi has cultivated deep defense and energy ties with Moscow, while simultaneously building closer cooperation with Washington in technology, security, and the Indo-Pacific. Analysts at Carnegie India explain that this balancing act allows India to avoid dependence on any one bloc and instead safeguard its own interests in an unpredictable global system. The U.S. tariff hikes have rattled Indian businesses. Economists quoted in the Financial Times warned that higher tariffs on sectors like textiles, pharmaceuticals, and IT services could slow growth and hurt employment in key industries. For many observers, targeting India's exports while overlooking Europe's continued energy dealings with Russia highlights a double standard in Washington's policy. This inconsistency risks damaging trust between two partners that are supposed to be strengthening cooperation in the Quad grouping, alongside Japan and Australia. Former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott cautioned in The Australian that unnecessary trade disputes could undermine shared Indo-Pacific objectives at a time when countering China's regional rise requires unity and coordination. On the Ukraine conflict, India has maintained a neutral but firm position. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has consistently called for peace and dialogue, famously telling President Vladimir Putin that this is not an era of war. Times of India commentators note that New Delhi's stance seeks to balance its historic ties with Moscow while not alienating its Western partners, keeping the focus on diplomacy rather than confrontation. For Russia, India's role has grown in importance. With sanctions limiting Moscow's access to Western markets, New Delhi has become a crucial economic partner. According to Bloomberg, Russian officials see India not only as a major energy customer, but also as a vital collaborator in building financial systems that reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar.